Hi, my name is Jonelle Godin. I am making this video today. Where do I start? I've actually been told by a lot of people over the last 9 years, I guess. Maybe less. You know, the drama kind of started 9 years ago, 2016. But, you know, I do Uber sometimes. And I tell my story. I got an elevator speech kind of already set up, where I can tell my story within a few minutes, you know, just in case like I run into somebody in an elevator. And you know, I always get the same reaction, you know, so many people say, you need to write a book, you know, and I used to say, it's like a lifetime story, right? And people are like, no, that's like a good Netflix documentary or something. But yeah, I feel like today is the day that I'm finally gonna do it, you know. I don't like to make political statements. I don't do politics. I don't do things that, you know, get people upset. You know, I'm a big positive thinker. You know, I think that's how I, you know, accomplished what I did that I'm going to tell you about. But I think, you know, God has kind of brought me through a lot in my life, and so many people say, why don't you share that story? You need to share this story. But the thing is I think it was set for a time such as this. You know, I was crying the other day. I'm crying right now. What a baby. But it takes a lot for me to cry. It really does. I mean, I'm an emotional person because I got mental health issues. I'm honest, like, I'm being transparent here. I really do have clinical diagnoses. But the thing is that I think emotional people, especially people with mental health issues, you know, are deep thinkers. And it hurts me when people, you know, say negative things or have comments about something that I tell them, trying to form an opinion about it, when that's not the purpose of always telling my story, you know, or anytime I say something. And just this world, it's not just America, it's everywhere. Like, everyone's always opinionated. And I made a video. I'm an English teacher. I teach English as a second language to adults. And I made a video one time on TikTok, and it was for adults. It was for people who were learning English. And of course, some American had to say something, you know, about it. Like, oh, you need to talk faster because you're going to bore your students to death. And it's funny because for the one negative comment, you get two, you know, people that came to my side and commented for me. She's probably speaking slow because it helps her students understand. This actually is what the reason was. So it was nice. But to put that aside for a second, somebody did do podcasts, asked me to be on their podcast show called The Couch Friends, and I told my story there, and she was kind of part of it. But you know, I think the reason I was upset the other day is because I've had some really bad luck lately, like really, really bad luck. And you know, I'm not a dumb person. I'm not. I got my bachelor's degree, and I teach English as a second language. It's hard, you know, and I also homeschool my kids. I am a teacher, you know. I do video work, and I've created all kinds of things. And when you hear what I have also accomplished outside of that, maybe you might not see me as poor white trash. Like, I've been called every name. In the book, I have. It's okay. I don't care. But what I see going on today, I've never felt more insecure and unworthy as an American citizen, born and raised here. I grew up very rural town in Florida. Nobody ever heard of it. It's called Citra, but that's where we lived. An old trailer out in Nowhereville, Florida. And we lived on 5 acres, but it was a simple life. It was I'm never ashamed of that I didn't grow up with money. In fact, I think that made me who I am. I like that, we didn't have everything. And sometimes I see people who grew up really wealthy. Actually, I went to a school where it was, all rich kids. I was the poor kid in the rich kid school. It was a Catholic school, private school. But it never occurred to me that it would be a better life. I liked my life just simple and basic, like we didn't have everything, but I think life is much more fun that way sometimes. I see some people that I grew up with wish they had my life. They had everything. They wanted to come stay in my little 3-bedroom house, because we did move out of a trailer eventually. But anyway, I grew up there. My parents owned a meat market, and it was the only place that I knew where groceries came from. First time I ever went to a grocery store, my mom used to say, "Oh, I looked everywhere. Look at all this food." But I was a very simple, basic life. And then we moved to Ocala when I was around 7. My parents got divorced, and my mom was a single mom, had 5 kids. And my sister moved away when I was really young, but I grew up with 3 brothers. It was pretty rough, but it was fun. No complaints. Family issues, a whole nother thing. But I got really bored when I was about 22, and I wanted to go to film school. I kept making videos, just me and my friends hanging out, and as a mortgage broker during the big that crash that happened in 2006. Yeah, remember that? I was kind of part of that. That's it. I didn't like being a mortgage broker, though. I had my real estate license, and I didn't, I was making good money, but I didn't like the stress, and I was very creative. And so I decided to go to film school. I manifested that. I actually have a video I just watched the other day, one of the first videos I ever made. It's 2006, about me, and I literally said that. I was like, I want to go to film school, and then I did. And then it said lots of other stuff in there that I was like, I did that. Yeah. So the power of positivity is what I'm trying to say. But after I graduated, so actually, let me go back a little bit. My dream too was the perfect job for me, because I always wanted to move to California. I'm a California girl all the way, even though I'm Florida. It's similar enough, I feel like. But I wanted to be Kelly Kapowski. You remember Saved by the Bell? Yeah, I wanted to be Kelly Kapowski.
Hello, Zach. I've been waiting for you.
And but once I got older, my dream was really just, I wanted to move there. I went there, by myself. And when I was 21 years old, I just flew, and I loved it. It's a wonderful place. if you ever get a chance to visit. But so that was going to coincide with my dream, and I had enough money saved up after I graduated from college to move. But I just had to get a job for a couple months because I still had 2 months left on my lease. So I found a job on Craigslist. Remember Craigslist? And Craigslist, this post was like somebody who needed a nanny. So I was like, I could do that for 2 months before I go to California. And so I got the job, and it was for this dad who had 2 kids, and he just needed me to go pick up the kids from school and from the bus stop and whatever. And it was great. So he kept asking me out, and I would just, I said no a couple of times, but then I just gave in and said, hey, why not? One thing led to another. I'm not going to go into that whole thing. That's on the podcast if you do want to see that. It's a lot. And it kind of triggers people too. I don't like people's reaction when we talk about domestic violence, because people usually go, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I get the sentiment, because they don't know what to say. It's uncomfortable. It is. It's uncomfortable for people to hear it. It's not uncomfortable for me to talk about, because it helps people when they actually have gone through it. But for people who have never been through an abusive situation, it's hard for them to understand. They get this idea that these women are stupid, or they don't leave because they want to be a victim or something. And it really, I can just sum it up with it had a lot to do with my age. I was 24 and he was 44, and he manipulated me. And it sounds stupid to even say out loud, but he just kept promising me, oh, you're gonna leave over one fight. And I would leave, and I would get all my stuff and pack it, and then he would just convince me to come back. And then one day, I have a video of it, in 2013, he actually threatened me. He said, if you leave, I will ruin you. I will spite you just to spite you. I'm gonna put that video. I'm gonna insert that right there so you could just hear the words, because that's exactly what in 2013.
My possession, and you will not take anything out of here that I don't give you permission to take, and we will call the cops and I'm here tomorrow. So.
Or else what?
Or else you want to get nasty? We're gonna get nasty, because you haven't seen nasty, but you're getting ready to see nasty.
You're gonna do what?
You have not brought. You do your thing, and God, I'm telling you, send me to Rochelle. You don't want to cross me. You cross me, I will spend the every dime that I had in my name to fucking present without the present to ruin you. You want to get on my bad side? You go right ahead. But I swear to my mother
because I'm
and
taking
my family,
because I'm taking the things for my children.
As much as determined and the person that you think I am, if you ever think that you can fucking fuck me, you have the wrong guy to cross. So you go right ahead. You roll those fucking dice.
Because I want to
lose. Call Rochelle and ask her what happens when you cross me. Ask her what happens when you cross me. Because I promise you that she regretted the day she ever fucked me, and so will you. If y'all think money speaks. Your mom don't have it, I got it, and I have money put away that you don't even know I have put away, and I will take every dime and hire the best attorney that money will buy, and I will make you guys eat out of your trailer, living Ocala asses, and I will spite you. This is spite. And think I can't, I will. Record it. I don't care.
So I thought, nah, he made threats about the courts, the lawyers, he'll win. And I'm still in my head, I was like, there's no way. He's got 4 arrests for domestic violence. When I did finally leave him in 2016, 4 arrests. 4. And that's too much. That is too much. I agree with the courts when they looked at me as the problem, and the DCF too. They were going to take the kids because I was putting them in a dangerous situation around violence. But I got the courage one day when I saw when a social worker came and said, she showed me this like wheel. It was a domestic violence wheel, and I'm like, he does every single one of these things. And she's like, I'm not telling you to leave him, but this happens again, we're taking the kids. That was enough, because it did happen again. And they did. They put it in a non-judicial at that point because it was the 5th time. They said the last time it was going to be the last time. So I was done for real this time in 2016, March 27th, Easter morning. Yeah, Easter baskets flying through the yard and everything. It's a very dramatic scene. But I left. And every single one of those threats were real. They were real. He did have money put away that I didn't know about. And he told me, he said, I will spite you just to spite you. I will ruin you. And I was like, you can't. You can't. I didn't do anything. I have no criminal record. You have 4 arrests for domestic. So he told me to come over and bring his laptop that I had. It was a couple of days later, March 30th, 2016. And I came with the kids to get some of my stuff too. And 4 police officers were in the yard. And I'll never forget that day. It was the worst day of my life. I've had a lot of bad days. My dad died, and that was nothing in comparison to the day they handed me that paper that said he had care, custody, and control. And I fell on the ground in the front yard. I was dry heaving, going, I can't give my kids to him. This is insane. Like, but I had to. The judge ordered it. And so I thought, okay, well, the judge also said that I couldn't, what I read was that I couldn't leave within 50 miles of the residence. So I wasn't even allowed to go back to Ocala. So I ended up staying in a shelter for abused women, which was very depressing, to be honest, at first. Very, very. But actually was the best place I needed to be at the time, because the other women in there were just like me, and there were so many people there that, were there to 24 hours a day to listen to me cry, and not go, oh, I'm so sorry. I get it. No, I do. I get it. But now that it was real help, it was actual help that I needed to get on my feet. And they had computers so I could look for a job and start from square one. And I got a lawyer that my mom paid for. Loss after loss after loss after loss after loss. And I thought it was the attorneys. We got another one. And then that attorney didn't do anything. So then we got another one, because I actually went to a priest. I grew up Catholic, and I decided one day I was driving by and I just was having a bad day, and I was like, I'm going to go to confession. And so I did. I went and talked to this priest, and he was awesome. He was freaking awesome. He said to me, you see that picture up there on the wall? And it had a picture of Jesus, and he goes, you see it? He's laughing. You know why he's laughing? Because he thinks this problem isn't that hard. He's gonna fix it. Watch. And I told him who the judge was that I had. And it was Judge Galuzzo. I'm not afraid to say that. No, I'm not. Because I'm gonna tell you, this man is the devil. And he goes, he's a parishioner here. And I said, no way. And he goes, you know what you need? You need to fight fire with fire. And I was like, And he goes, you need to get a better attorney. So I did. I got a better attorney, I thought. and he was part of the regime. I found out that his attorney, Chris Morrison, was an attorney that he knew Judge Galuzzo. He was friends with him, and I think I even heard that he was roommates with him in college or something like that. It could have been a rumor, I don't know. But the judge kept giving him the kids and ignoring the truth. I had evidence that he lied on documents. I had depositions that showed that he completely falsified everything. He just dismissed it suddenly and weirdly, right? So then 2017 goes by, a whole year of this, and they keep lying to me saying, oh, if you move to Orlando, then, because I ended up having to move to Ocala, because I got kicked out of the shelter because he was found outside. Whatever. They said it was a breach of security for the other girls there, that he knew where the location was. Okay, whatever. So I moved to Ocala, and I moved back to Orlando in December of 2016, and they said, if you move back, you'll get more time. They didn't give me more time. So 2017 comes and we get the trial going, and I got this new lawyer, and the first trial, he said, something weird about this judge. He dismissed evidence, and he only gave us 30 minutes, and he let him go on all day. He said, do you want to go, or do you want to just let me decide from here? I was like, no, I wanted to have a chance to talk. I didn't get, it was like 5:30 by the time I got to talk. He talked from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5:30. So I bring evidence of a video. I could probably post that on here too. It's friggin' crazy. My lawyer even said when he saw it, he's like, can't unsee that video. You can't unsee it. It's scary. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I deal with. You're scared? Think about how I'm scared. Even my son said in the background, I'm scared. Anyway, so yeah, I ended up, we ended up not being able to finish that day. That was April 2017. And then I found out some very terrible news about my daughter. Without going into details, I don't really like, sharing that it happened to her, so I don't want, to get into details, but somebody in his family did something very bad. And so I thought that this would bring us together. We could stop the chaos. I just wanted 50-50 custody at this point. I was only having every other weekend. But, no, and the kids were getting abused. So I was doing everything I could, and we paid $70,000. And the judge we got a different judge for the criminal charges for that. The DCF even verified that she was molested by the family member. And that went in front of a good judge, Deborah Krause. She was a good judge. And when he hired his attorney, Chris Morrison, to fight it. And he said, oh, this is one family, one court rule. We need to put this in front of Judge Galuzzo. Guess what he did with that? Dismissed it with prejudice. I could never bring it up again. Even though it was verified, even though we brought the DCF and Anyway, then that's when he admitted, I told him, like, can we put this aside for a second and deal with this issue? He said, no, you know what? You're going to lose. You're going to get every other weekend, and you're going to get Wednesdays, afternoons, and that's all. I said, there's no way the judge could do that. After everything, there's no reason for it. I haven't done anything. And he said, I got $28,000 that says you're wrong. And I said, you bribed the judge? And he's like, just a emoji with the sunglasses. I feel like that's an admittance of because it's really funny how he was exactly right. They called it. That's exactly what I got every other weekend and Wednesday afternoons. Strange. Anyway, we did the next trial in August of 2017. Brought the psychologist that did both of our mental health evaluations. Mine came back with anxiety. His came back with bipolar disorder, which I have no problem with people with this bipolar disorder. I love bipolar people. They're fun. But this is a medical condition that he was not getting treated for. And so it was causing him to be violent and not rational, with the kids. And there was one clear parent that could handle them and one that was being abusive. And plus he had 15 plus felonies. He had a very long criminal history. He had 4 years in prison, 5 years, I think, actually, escape, fugitive, 4 arrests for domestic violence. I have zero criminal history. So then the judge, when he's telling the order, he said, I don't believe anyone has a disorder, a mental disorder, when it gets to the mental health issue. I don't believe in that word. Okay. So you're a doctor now, okay. And he awarded him 76% custody, me 24%. And his excuse was, I called the DCF. And I proved that he for a year said that I called the DCF on him on his vacation. It was actually him. I didn't even call. So he said I used and abused the system. So this is why it's triggering right now what's going on in this country. So come to find out, I wasn't the only one. There's 20 plus people that I talked to online all had the same judge, all had crazy, even worse stories than me, believe it or not. And I put a petition up for this judge to get put away. I've had 400 pages I sent to JQC. They just dismissed it. Even with the bribe text and all that, nothing. But they got rid of a judge for Facebook friending someone that found out she didn't Facebook friend anybody. So yeah, it was a good old boys club there. I found out about Allied veterans and how they had this $300 million scandal. I was just insane with anger and trying to fight, And then I found out that I don't want to say found out. I was pretty sure that my lawyer was involved, that he was colluding, because there was no way that he just, every time he'd shrug his shoulder, be like, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Like, no, this isn't right. My kids are being in danger, and they're literally living with a pedophile at this point because he moved him in just to make me upset so I'd call the DCF, which I didn't, but to his downfall. So then after all that, they say I gotta pay child support to him. Now he's making $250,000 a year. I was making $24,000 a year. And they said I made $30,000 a year so that they can get even more out of me. Just like that video said, he was going to make me move back to, that was his purpose. He wanted me to move away so he can raise the kids without me, to punish me. So then he tacked on a criminal charge. Yeah. After all that, trying to be my friend. He was trying to be my friend. And then he's like, oh no, you're going to go to jail for 79 days. And I'm like, what? At this point, it was January 2018, and I just had it. I was just at my wit's end. I can't fight this anymore. I'm trying my best, and I couldn't even be happy, around my kids. I was just so worried about them. And it was a very hard time. But my lawyer at the time still didn't do much about it. Like, he was just like, oh, well, you probably won't go to jail. And I'm like, I don't care. This is a false charge. He goes, I know, that's why they're just trying to scare you. So that's when my brothers bought a new attorney. I had a second attorney at this point. And she made things worse. She made it to where the judge couldn't rehear it ever again. So now the only other option was go through this for 14 more years with him and pay him thousands of dollars, over almost $100,000 in child support I'd have to pay, much less barely making it, not even making it. And then I lost my job throughout all of this because I ended up becoming my own attorney. That's right. That's right. I became my own attorney against everybody else's opinions about it. They were like, oh, you can't do it. You don't have a law degree. And I'm like, well, it doesn't seem to make a difference because the people who have law degrees are not doing any good. So I couldn't trust anybody at that point, and I didn't have anything else left to lose. So I did. It was going to cost $20,000 to appeal it, and that wouldn't even guarantee anything. Like, that was going to do anything. Just in that court, he's the chief judge of all of Seminole County, Florida. So what was I supposed to do? I'll never go back to Seminole. So yeah, I did it. I wrote a 50-page initial brief to the 5th DCA. It took every bit of energy. I lost my job throughout it. I was stressed. I was just focused, laser focused on what I needed to do, what I needed to say, and it did scare the attorney. His attorney, Chris Morrison, literally extorted me by saying to me, as I was still going through the criminal charges too at the time, I'm telling you, it was like one thing after another. Like, I just felt like, I just got out of this terrible relationship, don't even have time to heal, and I'm trying to raise these kids, and I'm dealing with this, and I'm gonna be my own attorney, and I gotta pay child support. You're kidding me? Go to a child support office sometime, and I'll tell you that, like, I think is what hell actually would be like, is if you go American Florida child support office, because everybody in there's pissed off. The moms are pissed off, the dads are pissed off, everybody's pissed off, and there's a bunch of kids running around, and I never ever want to go back. I cried several times. I said, that I guess I am a baby. Anyway, so he actually extorted me because he said, I must have been scared about it. Yeah, because now you can't bribe the attorney anymore. So he said, I'm going to drop the charges if you drop your appeal. And I'm like, I said, take me to jail, because that's extortion. You're going to put me in jail for something I didn't do? And you're going to take it away from me just if I do you a favor? No freaking way. Why would I do that? Take me to jail. I would love it. Take me. And so of course that didn't fly. I got one of those public defenders, and they said, no, this is crazy. What the hell is going on here? Because even the Judge Glasgow goes, I'm going to be the judge on this, and Chris Morrison's going to be the prosecutor. I'm like, is that legal? And the public defender was like, yeah, that is apparently. It's in the law. It's in the Constitution. They can do that. A civil judge can be a criminal judge for any case he wants, and he can choose the prosecutor to be. That doesn't sound right, but I guess it was. So in any event, I ended up. That got dropped, and I did it. I sent it. It was hard. It was 3 months of my life. I had to get extensions. I didn't know what I was doing. I was looking up case law. I was like having dreams, waking up and going, I know what I'm going to say. And then he wrote his reply, and I cried. I am a baby. I cried because I was like, there's no way I can do this. I can't do it. And then I tried to go to sleep, and I heard a voice in my head that had all these legal arguments that I had no idea where they came from. And I just wrote it. Sent my reply, and that's it. That's all that can be sent. And we just had to wait. And in the meantime, he was going to move in the pedophile into the house. And I was now my own attorney, so I felt lost because I was like, I can't win. I got that judge off my case. I did. But it was like one of the lawyers that wrote a motion. Finally, he recused himself, which is really hard to do. But I ended up I was in front of Deborah Nelson, and she's actually the judge for the Zimmerman trial. Yeah. I also knew Casey Anthony back in the day that stuff happened with the baby, and it's crazy. I didn't know her, but I knew the boyfriend, Tony Lazaro. Anyway, kind of crazy, right? So anyway, I ended up fighting, or I was like telling my friend, I said, I can't do anything about it. I don't even know what to do. I can't even call the DCF because that's the reason they took the kids in the first place. And she was like, you need to put your big girl panties on and write a motion. I'll never forget when she said that. And she helped me. She got that red pen out and she was crossing out stuff. And I filed it. And as soon as I filed it, she goes, I had a vision, but I don't want to tell you just in case it doesn't come true. I'm like, you better tell me. And she said, I have a feeling that judge, somebody's going to get that. Like some person that before it gets the judge, and they're going to hand it to her and say, you need to do something about this. And she's going to give you the kids, but only temporarily. That is exactly what happened. She wanted to hear the case like right away. And she already dismissed one of my motions that I had prior to that. And she was like, don't you point fingers at somebody else, and then 3 are pointing back at you. So I was already afraid of her, but she went into him like, I don't care who you think you are. You're not letting the kids be around this person. It was verified by the DCF. And he's like, no, they can't get to my kids. If I'm sleeping in them, they sleep in my bed. She goes, I don't care. The kids are not going there until we have a hearing. And so we had a 4-hour trial. I subpoenaed 7 people. And I proved it, that he lied for a year about the DCF call. I had a document from the actual abuse hotline, which you're not allowed to have, or you're not supposed to get, but my lawyer at one point like threatened them, said you're gonna have to be witness then. So they just gave him the document that proved he was the one who called the DCF. So of course he brought it up. He's like, oh, she just does this all the time. When his lawyer was questioning him, she does this all the time. She calls the DCO. She called on my vacation. That's what she was trying to do, is ruin my vacation this time by making this accusation. It's not even true. Even though I had the document from the DCF and everything. And it didn't work with this judge. So I go up and I bring the paper. I was waiting for him to say it. I was so excited. So I gave him the paper. Or no, I started with, so in 2016, I called the DCF on your vacation, correct? Yeah, you called the DCF. Of course you called the DCF. You always call the DCF. I called I called you. I called the DCF on your vacation. Yes, that's what I said. I said, And I handed the paper to the judge and to the... Whose name is that on that paper? That's mine. Is that the date that the DCF call happened? You went on vacation in July of 2016? Yeah? I'm like, is that your phone number on there? For the person who called? Well, yes, because you were threatening me. I'm like, whoa. Wait for a year. You told the judge that I called the DCF on your vacation. You called. You. And he said, well, it doesn't matter. You called on other things. I'm like, nah. And the judge, at the end of that, she was like, you're subject to perjury. She proved that you lied for a year. And that whole judgment is a lie at this point. But she still gave him the kids back. I'll leave that. But she said, but I won. She was able to not let that person move in. Okay. But he was mad. He just started losing his mind. He started going insane. So then he ends up going really, really insane on his neighbor. And his neighbor ended up calling the police on him, and the police they had me on speed dial at this point. And the lieutenant basically knew me at this point, and he's like, we're over here at Chris Owens' house again. You need to come pick up these kids. And I come pick them up, and I'm like, why don't you get custody of the kids? And I'm like, why did I think of that? I don't know. I said, because I can't. They won't. They keep giving them back to him. And he goes, file an injunction, a restraining order. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Filed the injunction. Didn't get even a temporary one. But the neighbor across the street got an immediate one for stalking, because he was over there threatening him every single day. Mike can tell you all about that if he ever wants to. Yeah, he got one, but I didn't. So I called the lieutenant and I said, told ya, I don't care. Even the lawyers at the courthouse were like, they're not going to give you a restraining order. I said, all right. And so the next day I did an ex parte. It's a Hail Mary. I went, and that's where you can talk to the judge, in person. And without the other party, knowing or anything. And I'm waiting, and I see the judicial assistant come out, and I start, getting in her ear. I'm like, what's going on? Why didn't I get the thing? She goes, just stop for a second. Just shh. She's like, she changed her mind. She's going to give you the kids back 100%. And I fell to the floor, crying, a baby again. No, but I was so happy though. I was really, really happy. And I never found out for sure, but I really think the lieutenant called her and was like, you need to give her these kids. Because this man, he would tell me stuff that was going on in the house that he said looks like a psychopath lives in there. It's insane. Not to judge, I do forgive him for everything at this point. There's many other worse people that have done us actually worse than him, if you can believe that. Why? But anyway, so then we went to trial for that, and we ended up going up 2 hours. It's crazy. I got the transcripts for that. I should put that in this video, or something where you can see it. It's funny. It's pretty funny. He's literally in a jail cell because he got arrested right before that, and they already violated the injunction. That they did put the temporary one, and yeah, it was insane. It was one of those moments. Oh, and Chris Morrison bagged him at some point, before all that, because he just, he got enough from him and took his money and said, I withdraw. Just when he loses. So, serves him right. Karma. Some more karma happened to that one, but I'm not even going to discuss it because it sounds mean. But you can look it up. Anyway, so I will never forget those words when she said to me, I'm giving sole care responsibility to the mother 100% until further order of the court. And I remember feeling like it was all worth it. It was all worth it. Every tear. Fighting that hard. Everyone telling me you're never gonna win. What are you gonna do if you get? I had one person literally say, what are you gonna do if you get the kids? he's got money. What are you going to do? You're going to get on food stamps and Medicaid. And I just remember feeling like such a piece of trash. A lot. And nobody even believed me that I lost the kids for no reason, that it was a corrupt court. They're like, yeah, right. Why would a judge do that? And I'm like, because he was bribed. And they were like, no, you must be on drugs or a prostitute or something. I'm like, I never. No. Like, I'm a teacher. Well, I wasn't back then. But I was a stay-at-home mom with no criminal history. And I was a college graduate. Like, I got in a messed up situation. And just nobody believed me until then. And the people believe me now, but you know what I feel like lately? The other day, I've been having a rough year, actually. I've been getting child support. He ended up, by the way, he is in prison for 7 years. Believe it or not, he tried to put me in jail. And he's the one. He got arrested 13 times after 2019, January 25th, 2019. That's when I got the kids back, exactly 1 year after the final judgment went through in 2018. But he got arrested 13 times. This is the person they gave the kids to. And he lost his mind so badly, he can't even function. He got awarded disability. So then I finally started getting child support after 3 years of trying to go to child support office to try to get the reverse. And they sure enough were taking it out of my check, but they wouldn't take it out of his. And I just didn't have any child support for years. So yeah, I did have to get on Medicaid, and I did have to get food stamps, and I did have to work hard despite all my mental health issues, just to barely survive. But you know what? I was happy. I didn't ask for $1 million, you know? I wasn't trying to be a, millionaire. I just want to live a simple, happy life. And it was hard. And I was getting a fresh start. And I needed that money. I needed that insurance. And then last year, I lost it because I was making too much as a teacher, which should be a good thing. But then when I wasn't getting paid for a vacation in July last year, I had no income and no insurance, and I couldn't afford to go get my medication for my anxiety disorder, my panic disorder. Which, okay, I dealt with that. Because, I got a job. I got a lot to be grateful for. I have a house. I have kids. I have my kids. What more do I need? I was happy still, but struggling. And then I started getting child support for the first time, 2023. And it was coming out of his disability checks, so he went to prison right after that. So I was still getting it while he was in jail before he got sentenced. He had 2 felonies, 3rd and 2nd degree felonies, so it was going to be a while. But then January of this year, it just suddenly stopped. Lost my job in December due to my mental health issues, and I was out of work. Couldn't get unemployment because they didn't pay me on the books in January. That messed me up. So, of January 2024. So then I had to wait, and I applied for food stamps again, and insurance, Medicaid. And my employer didn't do the paperwork. So it took another month. So we had no food, no money, nothing. So here we are, January of 2025, and I couldn't even pay my rent. And now I was looking at being homeless. And there's a whole nother story, but my whole family just decided not to be a part of my life anymore in 2023. That's just a whole nother story. I don't want to get into that. This is stupid. So I had nobody, no support, nobody. And it's okay. It's okay because I was going to get my tax return and unemployment did finally come through like the end of January. But I was terrified and depressed, and I was looking for a job, and I didn't have the energy. And I had one bad thing after another happen to me. And then I was working on my website, I was trying to do some things, and when I got that money, I was like, I got ideas. Guess what? I had all these late fees and all these loans that I had to pay, and all of that money is gone. It's just gone. Just like that. And employment ran out, but luckily I found a job. And with my disability, it is very difficult. I've been, trying to get that, but it's hard because you have to do something to make money. You can't just not work at all when you don't have anything or nobody. So yeah, I did get some food stamps and insurance to get me by until I find a job, and I did find one, and then I was still able to get that with the job that I have. I'm teaching again, and I love it. I love my students. I love going there. It means everything, but I can only do so much. I can't work full time. That schedule is too hard on me. But I don't want to play the victim. I am capable. I'm very smart, but I know I'm an emotional person. I struggle because when people, the way I lost my job was because of my disability. I could not handle the hours that they were telling me to do, and I asked him, and he literally said, "You don't want to work 2 shifts?" It was like morning from 8:30 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon. Then I'd go back at 6 to 10:30, and I couldn't handle it. I was like, it was stressing me out because I also homeschool my children. I had no time to get dinner on, and he was complaining about me being late. I'm like, I can't handle this. I had to sit down with him. I need to just work once this book is over. You're not going to play me like that. I said, play you? By asking to have different hours once this book is in a month? No, you were hired as a teacher at night. You're going to continue to work. And then he realized that was wrong. He's like, I will reconsider. And he waited and he waited and he waited. September, from April 8th is when I asked, till September is when I finally got the hours that I wanted. And then he took away vacation pay, even though they're getting paid during vacation. It's corrupt. This school, these schools around here are terrible. I want to start my own school, but whatever. This is like the second time I'd had a really bad experience at these schools. They're not owned by Americans, and what's the point? Anyway, yeah, I've had a bit of bad luck. And then now I'm on vacation again, and I'm not getting paid all of July. So I'm trying to make it. I'm trying the best I can to survive. But then I hear this big, beautiful bill and how it's viewed. It's just like the way that people told me, what are you gonna do? You're gonna be on Medicaid and food stamps. You're entitled and sucking the tit of the American government, and the taxpayers pay for your food. And I was always met with that, that kind of harsh criticism. For me, I'm trying my best. I've been called white trash. I've been called trailer trash. I've been called every nasty name, and that doesn't bother me. But when it's my own president that says, I'm going to take it away from you, people, to give it to the wealthy people, that's where it hurt. That's where it honestly hurt. And I'm not trying to say this as, again, like, like politics. I don't like angry people, and I'm probably gonna get comments. I don't care, and then people are gonna say nasty things, and this is why I don't really want, to tell my story or to be about that. But I just want, for the president to look me in the face and say to me, you deserve to have less. You're worthless. That's what I feel like. And I know that I'm not. I know that I'm not. And I don't want to be on food stamps. I don't want to be on Medicaid. It's not what it's for. It's not for me to just always be on it. I wish that I had enough money. That's the goal. That's the American dream, is to have enough money, to have more than enough to pay my bills, to pay my electric, which is out of control. I'm going through this again with my landlord, who's costing me hundreds, thousands of dollars more because they keep leaving the pool pump timer on. Yeah, I got a pool. Luckily enough, I manifested that too, but not the pool. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. I'm not a rich person, but that was a blessing. But they keep raising the rent because the cost of living's going up. But my income's not going up. And so now my income's gonna go down. And I'm not going to be able to make it. That's scary. That's scary. That's really scary. But there's hope, because if I could make a change, just a little change, and fight against those giants that came against me, there was no way. The other people that I met and that had that same judge, none of them had that outcome. I kept fighting, and I kept fighting, and I spoke up. And I love this quote by Martin Luther King Jr. I really should find it actually and quote it, because I read it, and there were several other quotes, from other people that made me think. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. It matters to me. It matters to me. Because it's just about perception and how people view women, or people, not just women, people who are going through a hard time. You want to take more? How could you do that? How could you? I want you to look me in the face and tell me how you could do that. And make more tax breaks for the people who make money. That's not godly. Everything in the Bible talks about widows and orphans. Widows and orphans. How God wants you to take care of them. That's what this country was built on. And so yeah, I'm making this video, and I want I don't care about billionaires or anything like that, but what I saw Elon Musk doing, I think is interesting. I think is very interesting, because I actually learned through my kids, homeschooling them and teaching them, the two-party system started with Thomas Jefferson, and George Washington even told him, that's not a good idea. It's gonna divide the country on every issue. He's like, no, it won't. And he did it anyway. So it became a Democratic and Republican shit show, basically. And I don't know if anyone has ever read that before in our history, but it makes total sense. That's just not a smart idea. And look at what it's done. Everything is a joke. Everything's a fight. Everything, every issue. And we can't even get back to the reality of what our real issue is. It's the people. The people don't like this. Stop this. Stop this insanity and do something for Americans. For the first time in my life, I don't want to live here. I love my country. I want to move to Canada. Because you can make Canada mad. Who makes Canada mad? They're awesome. Anyway, I hope that I didn't embarrass myself being a giant baby. Or, you know, I'm sure people will say stupid things, mean things about me. I don't care. But I love you, America, anyway. I'll get past this. Even if this bill continues, you know what? Even if he gets away with this, I mean, whatever. I'm not trying to make enemies. Please, nobody, like, get me involved. But hey, Elon, I'm gonna tell you this though. I'm in full support. Whatever you want from me, I got your back. So, love you, America.